Hey YPMers, it's Noreen, and today Gennifer and I are extra super excited about what we've got for you. You know we love to bring you new insights so that you can experience more of your practical magic. And today we're breaking down the Clairs. No, it is not an all-woman alt-folk group shut out of Coachella this year, although there's always next year. The Clairs are the different ways that we can receive intuitive information, and we're going through the core 5 with Carla Blaha. Yeah, there's more than just clairvoyance, even if that's the one everyone goes to. I personally think it's just a bias we're bringing from our 3D world of images, from petroglyphs to Instagram. Visuals record the messages in our world, but this is about being open to how you receive them. Yet, I digress. Carla is amazing. She is a highly experienced psychic medium, and, by the way, we talk about the difference between psychics and mediums, as well as an author and a teacher. She's one of Gennifer's favorite teachers. She even got her a mug. We know you're going to love her. Our Clairs told us so. Let's dive in, and hey, on this one in particular, share on your practical magic about your Clairs, Instagram or Facebook, your preference. Off we go.
Hey, YPM listeners. We're here today with Carla Blaha. She's a psychic medium and an author, and we're going to talk to her today about clairsenses. I personally met Carla several years ago. I found her because she was teaching various metaphysical classes, including Psychic 101 and Law of Attraction, and I fell in love with her and became a groupie. I go to her message circles. I love watching her in action. I just think she has a lot of really fun, engaging things to say. And the reason we wanted to bring Carla on today to talk about clairsenses in particular is because Noreen and I recently had a conversation with a good friend of ours, Beth, about hearing a particular song on a radio just when she needed to hear it. So, Carla, welcome to Your Practical Magic.
Well, hello. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. Do you want to start off by explaining what are clairsenses? What does that mean?
Well, the clairs, as they're known in my trade, are the avenues in which people receive their intuitive/psychic and even mediumship information. So the most common one that people hear of is clairvoyance, because that goes back to the old movies with the crystal balls and the clairvoyant and the sign in front of their office. And clairvoyance is when you see things. Now, most people see it within their mind's eye. They don't necessarily see it in front of them. Now, I have personally maybe seen something in front of me 3 or 4 times, and even though I do this for a living every day, most of the things I see are in my mind's eye. So I would see a flash in my head, a picture in my head. Some people describe it as a movie. It's not a long 5-minute thing, but we get flashes, and we often tend to write those off. It's basically clear seeing. So that's the one that people know the name of, maybe not the definition.
You're talking about the mind's eye. And how does somebody figure out how to trust that?
Well, that's a good question. All of these is how does someone figure out how to trust them?
It's so true.
And honestly, the experience is the way to trust them, because our left brain consistently will get in the way and try to negate any of the clairs.
Yep.
Because that's what we do as humans, because we are humans physically as well as, energetic spirit people within our bodies.
Yeah.
So when you have experiences in any of the clairs, once you find, gee, that worked that time, gee, that worked that time, and enough of it, you start to have the confidence to rely on it. But even then, I call it in my book the pesky left brain, the pesky ego, the PE, it will get in and knock that out. So if someone, say, has a psychic reading or a mediumship reading, and they're thrilled, and you've got the evidence, you've got things people could know, sometimes 2 or 3 days later, it starts sneaking in. Well, maybe that wasn't it. Or it's always coming at us. It's a question of controlling it, leaving it where it belongs and not where it doesn't belong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued. Yeah. Because, in my own experiences, it's similar. I don't know. It's almost as if there's 3 separate stages. Like my brain is Coachella, and there is a part in the middle where I know that that's the higher frequency messages. But you're right. It's something I have kind of felt out and then learned to trust. So it's a little bit of a workout. You have to strengthen the trust.
And I find it easier, or I trust it more when I'm telling someone else a vision that I get for them while they're talking to me than my own self. So I'm trying to break free of that. I actually started reading a book by, is it Pam?
It's going to be Pam Grout.
Pam Grout, yes. I've been doing those.
Oh, the E=mc².
Yeah.
I studied with her. Yeah.
Did you study with her, you said?
I did. I even read her too. In the
Oh,
middle of this whole
wow.
big group, I got her Dead People. It was exciting for me. Love that book.
Yes, I've been doing those exercises, and one of them was about visual and asking for a sign. And one of the signs I put out was a purple butterfly. And here I am looking everywhere for a purple butterfly physically, even though Carla has taught me it might come through as the word butterfly in the word color purple or something else. And it wasn't until the exercise was over that I realized I had screenshot something and deleted it already from my phone. I went into my deleted file, and sure enough, this thing I screenshotted, which was meaningless about something else, had purple butterflies in it. I was so busy thinking so hard and looking too hard than not trusting when I did see it, I guess.
That is really interesting. And it's funny, I just had a session with a client about that yesterday, about how once you start, to your point, Carla, really trusting this and really being in union with these, with who you are as an energy being, as well as a human being, then all of this support, all of these messages do show up. But it's almost never going to look like you thought it was, because what you thought it was is coming from that left brain side of things, still trying to control things.
Yep.
That's 100%. There's no doubt. To go with what Gennifer said, and because you're talking about reading that book, we are humans. So there's an example in that book where you're supposed to look for a certain color car.
Yep.
And I use this in my classes a lot, because there is a natural sense that if you're now looking for, say, an orange car, you're likely to see more. And that is regular psychology. I get that.
Yeah.
But when things, and you've heard me say this a lot, defy the laws of reason, and in one day you see 5 orange cars, then you're talking about something else. It's not just your brain finding associations.
Right. Like, who has an orange car?
Right. Not 5 people in a day.
Exactly.
No.
So tell us about the other clairs. You told us about clairvoyance.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it is, but it's also not the most common one. It's up there in the top 3, I feel. Claircognizance translates to clear knowing. And that's when you simply just know. I always swore I'd entitle a book, I Just Know. I haven't done that yet. But growing up, my friends would ask me, even as a little girl, I'd say, just know. I had no explanation other than I just know. And that I just know comes with no emotion. That's the thing. You don't know out of drama or of sadness. It is just, even if it's something somewhat negative or a concern, you have it as clear knowing, as clear as day. I just know. That's one of the more common ones. And that's not that hard to trust, at least initially. Because when you just know, you know. And then if people question you, then you could be like, oh, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe this, or maybe that. But if you lead with just that, I just know is a really good one. And you would probably each be able to think of things, whether it's, I don't like this person. That's the most popular one. I hate to be negative, but that is one. Or I don't really trust this person on this date. Yeah, that's usually the one we know. But so, yeah, I think you probably both have had several encounters with that.
I've had a million.
Yeah, I live my life from the I just know. But I do like to question it, and not in a critical way, but in a almost like a skeptical, like, just make sure you're coming from your center. Make sure, I like what you said, that there's no emotion to it. And it's kind of bigger than emotion, if that makes any sense. It reverberates as a truth that kind of eclipses any of the storytelling you might be doing around the same situation.
Yeah. One of my clearest memories of first having that so powerful was back when I kept changing colleges, and I couldn't explain analytically why I needed to switch colleges again, but I just knew so strongly that where I was going had to happen. And it was through that next college that I was able to get the internships and enter the exact company that I really wanted to work for since I was in high school. But I didn't foresee that coming, but I just knew so strongly.
It's one of the more common ones because it's happened to almost all of us, and that we tend to second guess it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we don't have anything rock solid. As soon as people are like, well, why? Why do you think that? I don't know. So the important thing about claircognizance is that it comes with no emotion generally, even if what the feeling we get is something more of a negative. I'll give one example. A friend of mine was in the hospital. I was sitting at her bedside, and I really had a knowing in me that she was not going to live. And I shook my head for a minute because she was not doing well, but had gotten much better, and she was younger. And I remember thinking, this must be real because I don't feel like crying right now. I just know.
Mm.
And subsequently, within the month, she did pass. And I remember thinking, note this feeling. It's not attached to anything else, and it's okay.
Wow.
So we tend to second guess it when someone questions us. We say, so maybe I'm wrong. And then it spirals into the domino effect of you not going with your vibe.
Not trusting it, right? Good
Mm-hmm.
point. That's funny because one of our previous episodes is really the opposite, knowing your no, which is about coming into that center and finding that place where you have that knowledge. Intriguing.
Yeah.
What else have we got?
Yeah.
All right. Clairsentience is clear feeling. And that comes in two forms. It can kind of blend into the knowing, but it's that I get mine in my chest. Most people get it in their solar plexus, and it's that feeling in your gut. Again, mine is in my chest. I've done that my whole life. I can scan a situation and I go to my chest and I can feel a difference. Some people will get this in areas of their body, goosebumps. The back of the head, the neck, their hair goes up. There's actually physical symptoms that take on when the energy changes in the room or a vibe hits. It's a feeling. In fact, Sunday it happened. A friend of mine called me and she said, I did what you said. I couldn't get on the airplane. Because I always say, if you're nervous and you left brain it and you are afraid to get on an airplane, that's one thing. She was literally driving to the airport, broke down in anxiety, and never got on the plane.
Wow.
She just couldn't do it. And she flew out the next day and she took the hit on the price and everything. It's a feeling that you can't shake. But again, it doesn't come from your left brain repeating negativity over and then your body taking on those emotions. That's your brain doing this. It comes from without and in.
When you say without, you mean beyond?
Yes, because most of our vibes we can say are from within. But if you're talking about the plane example, that's your left brain, say, sometimes getting nervous, and then you feel a panic attack, and then you don't do it. But when it comes from without, meaning like out of nowhere into you, don't get on that plane, I have a nervousness, and there's no logical reason for me to think that, then you need to take that seriously.
And there's an urgency. You're saying
There's
like
an
it.
urgency. Excellent. There's an urgency with no logical reason. And again, if you suffer from anxiety and you're up against something, that's different. But if you're like my friend trying to get on the plane and all of a sudden is driving there like, I cannot get on the plane, there's a reason she should not get on the plane for whatever that is.
Now, a question from the 3D world. Did it ever bear out why she didn't get on the plane?
I need to talk to her about that because it's just a couple days ago. It just happened.
Yep.
But I have a friend that had that happen and the plane actually crashed. So
Right.
that was
You
a
hear
good thing
that.
not to get on that. I have to talk to her to find out because possibly there would have been something that could have happened driving home from the airport.
Yep.
That kind of thing. So I have to speak to her. I think she flew out 3 days ago. So I will have
Right.
to ask her.
No, it's always interesting because you do have to just decide that you're going to trust it. Like it becomes the through line for all of this, right? And that actually leads to more clarity when you learn how to do that trusting. Because the whole point is that by listening to it, you avoided the situation. And sometimes you don't know what it is you avoided because it didn't happen
Because it didn't happen.
Yep.
based on your choice point.
And you kind of have to listen too when your children or other people say things because there's a story. I was 11, I think, and I was in St. Louis with my mother and father, and we were leaving on I think it was a Sunday, and I said we must stay another day. I remember making that statement. We must stay another day. And my father, we were flying TWA. I'm almost positive that was it, into LaGuardia. And my father changed it by a day on me just saying we must. I don't think he was following his, 11-year-old daughter's vibe. I think he was probably like, all right, we can stay another day. That was back in the 70s when they bombed the TWA, that flight that day.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't have a weird feeling. I just said we must stay another day. And I was demanding about it in a childish way. I remember my mother going, oh, she's just like my mother. And I knew they equated in something, and
Oh,
then I just
interesting.
moved on. But that actually did happen to me. So
Wow. I was thinking after that, your parents would be coming by with the racing form or whatever.
I think my grandmother did do that.
That's funny. I just wanted to share a quick story where I had a just knowing moment that was so strong for a happier occasion, I guess. I was with my friend in our 20s. We went to something at the ad club that she was very passionate about. And before the speaker spoke, someone from the ad club, a young guy, got up and spoke. And I was struck with love at first sight, but not for me. It was huge. And I turned to my friend, her name is Jackie, and I said, "You have to go out with him." He wasn't really quite her type. And she was like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Jackie, I'm telling you right now, I can't explain why, but you have to go out with him. You just have to go out with him." So afterwards, she went up and spoke to him and introduced herself. And they did end up going on a date. I don't remember who asked out who, but they're married, 2 kids to this day. I felt love at first sight for her.
Awesome.
Wow. It's easier to do that for other people, by the way.
Yeah.
When you do it for yourself, your left brain definitely gets in and your emotions. It's so much easier to do that where you're objective.
Yeah.
Excellent point. And again, that brings it back to ways to really figure out how to use this and develop these abilities that you have naturally is about, parsing away that emotion and staying objective and starting to build that trust and respect. So I like this. Okay. What else have we got?
Continuing on with the Claires.
More Claire.
There's 2 more Claires. Well, they've invented a few more, but I'm sticking with the basics. I'm old school here.
She's a traditionalist.
Yeah, traditionalist in my world.
Yeah.
Clairgustians, the sense of smell and taste. Now, it's one of the more rarer clairs when you're a working psychic or medium. It's not an impossible one. It was not one of my top 3. And now I get the taste a lot. I do not get the smell, but I have many clients report to me that they'll be in their apartment or their homes alone and then they smell cigar smoke. And their grandfather was an avid cigar smoker. It's one thing, let's face it, if you live in an apartment building and someone's outside smoking, you really do have to check the reality of things.
Of
It's not
course.
always
Right.
a dead person. But the perfume, the cigarettes, the cigars, a certain type of food, those smells and taste. I get the taste in my readings. I will get a sour, a sweet, a gritty, a chewy, but it took years and they developed kind of on their own as my other clairs developed.
I've had the smell a few times. When my uncle passed away, I was in my car by myself and I smelled cigarette smoke so strong and it was just impossible. I wasn't in traffic or anything. And then I went to the Omega Institute with my mom for an event, and she had some kind of breakthrough around a sibling of mine that never made it to Earth. And I don't remember if she had it first or if she told me about it and then I had it, but I smelled baby powder very strongly. It was very weird. And then it came up again when I was studying Reiki 4 at the Open Center in New York City, where I was just in the gift shop looking at stuff in between class breaks. And again, out of nowhere, it was like this strong sense of baby powder. And then a third time it happened as I was walking into my old office building, just out of nowhere, just boom, the same one.
Baby powder.
Yeah.
I like that because that's actually very unusual. So you hear the cigar and the cigarette. I'm quick to be like, okay, really, who was near you? But baby powder, it's just not a thing. I love that.
Yeah, it was weird.
That's cool.
It is interesting because mine are all in the burning material experience as well. Usually it's like a char and I can taste the char as well.
Oh, you can taste it.
Yeah, but I smell it and taste it.
Do you equate that with any individual or situation?
No, but I do love fire. Not that I'm a pyromaniac, but I'll never have a home without a wood burning fireplace, for example. What I relate it to or equate it is when I'm doing deep work. That's all I know. If I'm working on someone and I'm going to really deep spaces, regression work, or in Donna Eden's training, we do grid work, which is almost a shamanic retrieval type of work. Yeah, sometimes, not every time, but sometimes I get that when I'm in a deep kind of quasi space with my clients.
I wonder if that doesn't symbolize for you removing the layers of energy.
Could. Yeah.
And going deeper into and releasing.
Releasing. Yeah, I would say that's what's happening. Okay, we're really in there now. And it's funny because then I'll go back to Claircognizance because I just know that that's what it means, that we're in deep and things are popping. Cool.
That's awesome.
I'm learning so much.
I also had a moment where I smelled Benetton perfume
Oh,
in my own house, and that's what my grandmother used to buy me at the mall.
You do smell a lot of perfumes from particularly maternal ancestors. There seems to be a through line where they will come by with perfume scents.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to know who they are. Benetton, that's so unique.
So specific.
Benetton colors.
Yeah, and that reminded me of my grandmother would be Lily of the Valley on one side, and the other one was Charlie.
Oh yeah, Charlie. If I could sing,
Great.
I'd sing that commercial right now. I can remember the logo and everything.
Yes, totally. That's hilarious.
It gives away our age.
That's funny.
So let's get to the other Claires.
We're on our last Claire of the traditional Claires, which is clairaudience, which is clear hearing.
Mm-hmm.
This does come in two forms. The least common, and this is across the board, is the clairaudience hearing from without, meaning you're hearing me. There are a handful of mediums, maybe psychics, I don't know, that are able to do this where they hear people talking to them. Now, again, you're talking about practical. I am the most practical medium you'll ever meet. I think you need to rule out that people are actually hearing voices or there's some kind of problem. When you rule out that someone's mental capacity may be impaired, because that's a real thing, there are people that actually hear, like I'm speaking, messages and can deliver them. Again, the least common. The most common clairaudience is, which we've briefly talked about before, is to have songs or sentences or things that you hear. For example, say you're online at a drugstore and you're thinking about your mother or your father, and there's quiet noise all around you that you're not listening to, but all of a sudden you hear the name Bob, and you kind of think, oh, that's my dead father's name. And then you get up to the cashier and you hear it again. You will hear it through actual people out and about and on the radio. I hear in my mind's eye things. I'll hear a sentence, just a direct sentence or a quote, but I consider that more of the clairvoyance. Even though I'm hearing it with my brain. So the clairaudience would be through songs or through that room of 100 people and you're not hearing anything, then all of a sudden a sentence comes out. That's cool. And it's very telling because it happens several times in a day, and then you need to take that message. So clairaudient is hearing it like you're hearing me. Some people just hear voices that aren't actually there, but they hear them like they're us.
Loud and clear.
I've had that 3 times.
Yeah, I've had it like 3 times where I've heard my name, but I don't hear full sentences. I hear it in my brain. I don't hear it in a voice. The most common way to be clairaudient is either through songs, song lyrics, or when you're standing somewhere, albeit at a store or out in a crowd, and our brains rule out idle chit chat. We just do. But I've learned that if I'm somewhere and I'm reading someone and someone walks by and I hear Clara, wait a minute, I know there's a dead person. And the person literally said Clara, but they were walking by. And I'll say, so who do you have named Clara? That's spirit's way of telling me their name, because I heard nothing but mumble, mumble, mumble like Charlie Brown. And then all of a sudden, boom, I hear a name, or you'll hear a name. Or if you hear the same song 3 times in a given day, there's a message in that for you. It's just the way it is. And again, it's one thing if it's the holidays and it's the same holiday song, you want to rule that out. But if it's a song you equate to a loved one and defies the laws of reason, I have countless stories like this, countless. Again, when they defy the laws of reason is when you start to rely on things and say, this is something other than my left brain.
So we shared a story with you about our friend Beth coming out of a deep healing yoga class and just having this breakthrough moment in yoga.
Jen, we have Beth telling that story. Why don't we share it with everyone?
Okay. Yeah, do it.
Let's do it.
My story is that 3 years ago, I was trying for a second child. And when I started, I thought it was going to go really easily and happen really fast, but it didn't. I was having trouble keeping the pregnancies. Anybody who's been through that knows that can be very disruptive. And I decided after maybe a second or third loss that instead of focusing on getting pregnant, I was going to focus on wellness and taking care of myself. So I decided that physically I was uncomfortable, emotionally I was uncomfortable. So the best thing for me at that time was to go to yoga. I thought that the stretching and the strengthening would be really nice for my body, and the quietness would be really good for my mind. I started to go to a couple of classes and I was feeling better. Maybe a month or two had passed. And I was at one class and I realized while I was in that class that I would never have done this if I had gotten pregnant right away. If I had gotten pregnant right away, I would have continued the same life that I was living up until that moment, which was the routine of giving to everyone else instead of taking care of myself. I don't think that I had taken the time to take care of myself or mother myself. I was a working mom. I was giving to the job. I was giving to my kids. And this was the first time where I was really making space for something like that. And so while I'm stretching and I'm starting to feel better and I'm starting to take care of myself, the term that comes to me is that I'd gotten what I needed, but I didn't get what I want. So I wanted a child so bad, but that's not what I needed at that moment. What I needed was to take care of myself. And that felt good. It felt like I was being guided and I was being protected from my own plans. So with this insight, I was feeling better. I got into my car. The radio station that I had been listening to was playing a song I wasn't that interested in, so I changed the station. And the next station that came on, it was like the Beatles or something. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. So that song ended. And the very next song that came on was You Don't Always Get What You Want, but You Get What You Need from the Rolling Stones.
Mm-hmm.
And it punched me. It hit me. Like, it wasn't like, there are some times where you feel like you're getting something, a sign or something, and it feels like maybe I'm reading into this, maybe I'm looking for something. But this was one of those moments where I shook, like I was shook from it. I started laughing and I started crying and I started saying thank you. I wasn't sure who I was saying thank you to, but I was saying thank you. I felt surrounded and protected and also like in on a joke.
Yeah.
So the song lasted for the whole ride home, and the whole ride I was kind of weepy and laughing at the same time. And I pulled into my driveway and I turned my car off, and something told me to turn the car back on and listen to the rest of the song and what it was going to say after the song specifically. And I thought that was a weird thought to have, because DJs don't come in after every song and say, like, how did you like that song? Or here's, the next song. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go with this because this feels like I'm connected to something right now. So I turned the radio back on at the very end of the song. You get what you need. And the song ended. And the DJ came on and she said, I don't know how this happened, but there are DJs apparently schedule songs like 4 blocks at a time. And she said that the last block before what was supposed to play just repeated. So they played the same block 2 times in a row. She doesn't know how it happened, if it was a technical glitch. She said, but I hope you really enjoyed those songs enough to hear them twice. So I felt like not only did I have a message from the universe, but she made probably tens of thousands of people listen to it as well. So it felt grand. It felt pretty big.
I listened to that and it actually gave me a bit of my own epiphany. So I thought I would share this with you today. I've often heard that song as well when I'm in the middle of a thing, crisis, whatever the case may be. And I've been like, what do you mean I can't always get what I want? It's annoyed me, I have to admit. But this time I heard it differently. Now, this has gone on for years. All right, I know I can't always get what I want, and that's disappointing. But listening to Beth's story, I focused for the first time ever on you get what you need.
I love it. That's beautiful.
I realized every time I heard that and got annoyed that I wasn't getting what I wanted, knowing, yes, Spirit has a bigger agenda for me, I never took to the next sentence but you get what you need. So I'm looking to look from this moment on at it differently, thanks to you guys for telling me about that.
That's fantastic.
I have a learning just from what Carla's taught us already today. That's because you weren't in a situation, and so you were able to be objective.
Yes, I was absolutely not. I didn't have an agenda or a need
Right.
attached to it. And that is when you get your most clear messages, when you are in your now space or neutrality, which is awfully hard if you're in a crisis or at a crossroads as a human. Those moments, they're not special to just me or anybody in my line of work. They are for everybody. When you're in that neutrality and have no agenda, many deeply religious people would say when you hand it all over to God, whatever you want to call it, it's when you're just not attached to the outcome and you have faith that the right thing will come. When I heard that yesterday, I'm like, okay, I'm really going to be looking forward to hearing that song in the next 2 days. So I put it out there to the universe that I will hear that song. And not that I'm driving a lot lately, but I'm planning on hearing the song. Just letting you guys know that.
I predict it's going to be in a TV commercial.
All right, I'll let you know.
I just know.
I just know.
Because I've trained you so well in my classes, Gennifer, that you got that right.
I'm telling you, Carla, it's really fun. I have learned a lot from you. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that yesterday. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So those are the Claires.
Well, what I love is, again, Claire translating to clear, to you just realizing, sharing that epiphany with us, which is so powerful because it is about that sense of neutrality and that nowness, which is that knowingness. It gives you access to whatever your relationship is to these gifts so that you have that expanded knowledge, that expanded access. And that's what we're doing here at Your Practical Magic. We're just trying to give people a buffet of options. Try what you like, use what works, pass along what doesn't.
Pass along what doesn't.
Yeah.
I will say when driving with the songs or in the shower, this is called quiet distraction, or when we receive the most messages. Yoga, like her story, you are doing something and you're distracted, but it's a quiet distraction. Those are the moments that are very profound because you're busy, but not distracted.
Quiet distraction. Yeah.
So that quiet distraction is why she had that during yoga and not while she was feeding her child, because she'd be too distracted. Or laying there, letting her left brain get in the way. She was doing something, but not too much.
That's what I was thinking where you were going, is that what is distracted or who is the distracted? It's the left brain critical mind that's always standing sentry against these kinds of experiences because it's wanting to have control just for its own comfort. So that's pretty intriguing. This nice quiet time, almost like a kitten being petted and purring, then these other embodied gifts come forth.
You're absolutely right. I like that because that left brain does sit there ready to take control for comfort, because we as humans are seekers. Even if you're not a control freak, we need to get our power back and feel in control. And when we're wading in the waters of the sixth sense, we don't have a life raft or a buoy to grab onto. So our left brain is going to come in there and try to control to hold us steady. I always say, if you're in the middle of a hurricane, you're in the water, you don't want to be chained to an anchor. You want to be able to get the heck out of there. Your brain needs to be able to do that.
We've been using the metaphor of surfing in this whole massive upheaval. You don't want to be locked in one place. You want to be able to move and sway and surf with the wave.
The old upstream thing has never worked, right?
Exactly. Otherwise, you're going to get clobbered.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a couple of questions. Well, I'm going to just bring up one thing you said in passing, and I think I've always been fascinated by this, and I'm sure our listeners would appreciate the clarification, no, but between psychic and medium, because you mentioned some psychics and some mediums, and I think not enough people could really articulate what the difference is.
Yeah, there is a difference, and I understand why people not in the business would not know this, and it's an important difference. A psychic and or intuitive, or someone who has a heightened sixth sense. Okay, that's heightened and toned up muscle. is able to help people with people, places, things, energy of events, things in their lives. That is sometimes predictive, but it is not exclusively predictive. We have free will. Let me state for the record, I don't believe anybody can predict everything 100% or to any ultra strong degree, because we are humans and we can change our mind with free will. But that's what it is. It's helping people. If you do it for a living, it's helping people. If you do it for yourself, it's using those clairs and your gut instinct to help guide you. I often call it high school, because mediumship is connecting to those who have crossed over, which I liken to college. One's not better than the other, but if you went to college, you clearly went to high school. Whether you got a GED, went to a public or private school, you did something. So every medium is a psychic. Psychics are not necessarily mediums, and there's many psychics who are excellent psychics, and they may get a dead person's name or something about them. I feel that's generally more of a psychic hit or telepathy or ESP hit than actually mediumship, which is connecting with a very strong sense of rules, if you will, onto the other side, not with generalities.
Right.
They love you and they miss you, but things that are completely evidential and impossible to make up. And so if you are a medium, you are a psychic, but psychics are not necessarily mediums.
And when people, well, I don't even know if it's when people, I want to ask you, how does connecting with those who have passed help us?
It's funny, someone else just asked me that recently, but not in the same pleasant tone you did.
I'm genuinely curious.
I know that you are. This person was, who cares, kind of a thing. No, they were meaner than that. But it depends upon what your need is. When we lose somebody, we're either A, heartbroken because we love them so much and had an amazing relationship, and in earnest, we miss them. Then there's those that maybe didn't like the person that much, but they have baggage to heal. And then a million shades of gray within that. When people die, that we have baggage to work out with them, or maybe we didn't speak to them for many years, or there was a fight, or there's the human guilt of, oh, we had the best relationship in the world, but I wasn't with them the last 30 seconds they passed. Most of this is our stuff and our psychological need legitimately to feel connected. So A, you want to know they're okay and that there's more than what we can see and touch. B, you may have to heal something, which you absolutely can heal when a person is passed. My own father died not speaking to me. I tell the story all the time, and which was shocking because we were so close. And it took 27 years. I wasn't trying the whole 27, but there was an epiphany. I had an awakening where now he's my hero and he's just to me like he was when I was a little girl. And I was able to actually heal that, which I couldn't have seen coming. But you can heal that stuff. And then if a mother's lost a child or a father's lost a child, by giving evidence to a person, I always get the, oh my God, you could never have known that. I get that all the time because that's also what I strive for. That lets my sitter know that there's something other than what we can touch, and that the possibility of seeing them again or feeling them again is really a reality, and it's not over.
I was doing Reiki on a friend in the room that used to be her son's room. He passed away when he was 3, unfortunately. And I was doing Reiki on her. And while I was doing Reiki on her, I just kept having these visuals of beagles the whole time. And when I was done doing the session on her, I said, I kept thinking about beagles. What's that? And she said that her son used to play with a bunch of beagle puppies next door. It was a comforting just thing that I picked up on while I was working on her. And you can see that. They want to believe, and a lot of times they do, but every single time that someone can pass on a message of any kind to confirm that that really is real is amazing. And I've seen you do it, Carla, so many times. But I also remember, Carla, one time you had a message circle and someone was coming through for you and you were like, not now. I don't know if you'll remember that. Or I want to say it was like an in-law of yours, maybe.
Oh, I have no memory of that.
Actually, that is such a good button. It really makes sense if you're exploring these 5 possible clairs and even, practicing and opening up. What do you do when it's not the right time? You're not feeling receptive. Someone's knocking on your Claire door and you're like, not open for business today, come back on Monday.
Well, there's two things. If you're really not interested, spirit is very, very receptive if you're blunt and to the point and say, I'm not interested in talking to you, and you stop them. But mostly when people are not interested and it's their loved ones, it's because there's some wound they have to heal and they're not ready for it. And they really do want it. It's very difficult to read somebody that wants it yet that doesn't want it. For example, and this is on the darker side, but I remember the group years ago where I was, and I kept getting a man coming through who had showed me, and I didn't share it, really horrible acts he had committed to the extreme. And he was dying to get in to say he was sorry to someone in the group.
Oh, yeah.
And apologize. And I let it go until I got to the end to one lady. I ignored him because it was really pretty ugly what I saw, more than what I normally see. And I went to her and I gave her a name. And she said, that was my grandfather. I hated him. And I said, all right, but he shows me some acts. I didn't say them. And he would like to apologize. And she then proceeded to the degree of, the acts that he had done to a number of family members, so on and so forth. And you could know that anyone had been through what she'd probably been through, and her family needed that healing.
Yeah.
She did not see that coming out of left field, was not receptive. And I stopped talking immediately and allowed her that, but did send her a follow-up letter because the guy kept bothering me. I didn't let her know what I saw. I just said, he says this, and he describes himself. And I did not hear from her again. I normally would have. She was not prepared,
Yeah.
but he knocked down the door. So when I train my mediums, I tell them, you've got a human life and a psyche in front of you. You have to be careful. I can't tell you the people that come to me and are like, oh, I went to somebody, but I haven't been in 20 years because they told me my mother was going to die. Who says stuff like that?
Usually charlatans that want money to keep her alive right afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. But these people are now traumatized.
I know.
I have someone in front of me that's very fragile, no matter who they are. So there's a lot of ethics, which is obviously another story. A lot of ethics that need to go into this.
But it's an important thing to mention. You're right, because everything that we present, we try to present with a high level of integrity.
Yeah.
And I think it's an excellent point. Should you be receiving a message for somebody, one, you don't edit it, but you do filter it for receptivity.
Yep.
For what somebody's able to hear.
Yep, absolutely. Especially if I'm in a crowd. In a private reading, I'll say, this is happening. But in a crowd, I will ask, do you want me to continue or do you want me to stop? Because my job is not to traumatize somebody, it's to heal them.
Of course, exactly. You don't want that to backfire. It's so funny for me to hear what you said about both things. The one woman whose grandfather showed up, but also the avatar for anyone who's had a bad experience but ends up with you. Something, once again, from a divine, destiny standpoint, has brought them to have an experience of a higher integrity so that they can be open to what's there for them.
There's healing on both ends for the people and the people who have passed over. So there's high and beyond even integrity from the spirit world. They have a job to do and we do. And if you could heal that, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. But receptivity, you hit on a big one, is really important.
That's really just another word for free will.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have free will to be receptive. I always find it interesting. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. Well, people say, oh, I don't want to talk to them. I want to talk to so-and-so. And I'm like, well, it's pretty amazing that they died. And I was able to tell you their name, what they died from, and that they chipped their left tooth on eating a candy bar. Yeah, but I don't want to talk to them. Sometimes this work becomes so commonplace to people that it looks like a TV show.
That's
So
true.
no, they blow it off. When maybe this person with a chipped tooth needs to resolve something here, and maybe we could help them. There's a lot to it.
It's fascinating.
I could see somebody going, well, then they can pay you whatever.
Right.
Wait, I've had this countless times, and this happened last week when I warn people, well, I'm reading you, I can get your ex-mother-in-laws, your ex-spouses. So sure enough, more than 50% of the reading was the ex-husband's family. And I did jokingly say, well, you can go and ask them to pay you back for what you paid for the reading. And we joked about it. But I've also had people have that happen, and they've contacted me and they've said, I hadn't spoken to them in 10 years because of your reading. I did. And now we'll speak
Exactly.
again.
Right.
So there is no coincidence on why they would be coming
Mhm.
through. They try. We have to be open.
I like that.
Me too. This has been excellent, Carla. You know, I could
Thank you.
speak to you for days.
I know.
We like to ask our guests some questions. I'm going to start with, what is your favorite word?
Believe. That's an easy one. Believe.
Ooh. What brings you home?
The feeling of absolutely no pressure.
That's a good one. What's your favorite time of day?
You know the answer to this. I am a night owl.
Yes, you are.
Late night. Yeah. I come alive at about 11.
Wait, 11 a.m. is when you...
No. So I am starting movies at 11 at night. I don't mind starting a newsletter at midnight. I'm not proud of that at all because that's odd and it's probably not healthy, but favorite time is late.
What would you tell your 20-something-year-old self?
To fear less.
What's something new that you've discovered that surprises you?
The ability to have neutrality around things that I normally would let bother me.
That's good.
And how really that's needed for people and myself to survive.
And then one of our favorites is, who would play you in the movie of your life?
Definitely Lady Gaga for my life. Gaga is a younger version of me on many levels, so just saying.
I 100% agree with that.
I love it. Our last one, if we can wrap it up, is, can you think of a time that you would share with us when the practical and the magic collided in your life?
I don't mean to be lame, but the practical and the magic collide every second of every minute of every day in my life.
Mic drop, we're done. That's this episode of Your Practical Magic. Thanks for being here with us. Please remember to like and share on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And go to @YourPracticalMagic on Instagram or Facebook for visuals on all of our doses and more. Please like and share there too.